of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was trucking up the highway, minding my own lane, with some dude in a Prius went and flipped me off. Guess my redneck hit him wrong. Seems like everyone these days is a ticking time bomb full of hate for folks like me who don't agree and ain't ever gonna change. And it gets me thinking, leave this long-haired country boy.
Marietta, and I am the Hillbilly, and I'm glad to be with y'all today. Check out all of our sponsors that came up on the beginning of the feed, and we're going to get right to it. I'll tell you what, folks, there comes a time when the Lord's people have to stand up, square their shoulders, and say enough is enough. For too long, the high and mighty have lived like kings, while the folks who pay the bills are treated like servants. We've been reading about the idea of a 28th Amendment, says the Congress ought to live under the same laws the rest of us do. Well, glory to God. That sounds like what the good book means when it says God is no receptor of persons. If the law is good enough for the farmer, the nurse, and the coal miner, it's good enough for the senators, congressmen, and the county commissioners. But you don't think this sickness stops at the Potomac River. Oh, no. It's right here in our own backyard, up in Uniontown. Yes, Uniontown, Fayette County. Leaders Scott Dunn, Vince Facilities, and that bloated budget bunch keep spending money they don't have and taking more from the folks who do. And old bloated budget Pat Stefano signing NDAs with FAPEN, hiding tax money like a card cheat at midnight. They call it economic development, but it looks a whole lot more like the economic deception. Folks, we the people have had enough. Bible warns us about shepherds who feed themselves and not the flock. Woe be to the shepherds who eat the fat and clothe themselves with the wool, but feed not the sheep. And right now, those sheep are the taxpayers of Fayette County and all over the country. And I'll tell you what else. This talk about unity. That ain't unity. That's cover. It's the good old boys club circling the wagons to protect their own. Proverbs says, he that justifies the wicked and contemns the just are both an abomination unto the Lord. You can't call corruption teamwork. Think God's going to bless it. But listen close. This ain't about revenge. No, sir. We the people are not about revenge. We are after a reckoning. Revenge is about getting even. A reckoning is about setting things right. We don't want blood. We want truth. We don't want to destroy. We seek to restore. I believe that reckoning coming. The ground beneath the proud is starting to tremble. Because when ordinary folks finally link arms and raise their voices, the walls of corruption fall just like the walls of Jericho. Fayette County, it's time to back your voice, your money, and your government. Tell Scott Dunn, Vince Facilities, and Pat Stefano, you work for us, not the other way around. Courthouse doesn't belong to politicians or developers. It belongs to the people whose sweat pays the bills. Almighty says, let judgment run as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. Brother, that flood is rolling. So rise up, Fayette County. Rise up, United States of America. Stand firm. Speak truth. Remember, this isn't revenge. It's righteousness. It's a reckoning, and the time is right now. I have Mike Maat with me today, and I got your name right the very first time. How about that?
Good to be with you, John.
He's a very noted economist. We'll say that he's ran for vice president at least once that I know of, and he's sort of in charge of the Liberty Caucus in the United States of America. Did I have that right?
Well, I'm not in charge of it. I serve on the board and I help out a lot. A whole group of my campaign team and I joined the Republican Liberty Caucus last summer, a team of 45 people. So we're very excited to support the RLC and love to talk about it every chance I get.
Well, Mike, what I really want to talk about today is I think, and I think you'll hit home with all this. I want to ask you some questions. You on a national level are observing what's going on with the corruption, how things are starting to come to light. Maybe not as fast as we would like them to, but they're coming that way. And we're seeing a lot of things happening. We're also seeing that while I agree we need to take Iran out, I don't want the United States to have to pay $1 billion a day to do it.
I agree with you.
I think 100%. Me and you agree both on that. I think that it's time the United States helps police the world, but it isn't our job to police the whole world. We had to do what we had to do in Venezuela. We knew that was cut. We knew that had to happen, and I'm sure that it could have been handled maybe differently. But now it looks like there's several other South American countries that are saying, "Well, we don't want you to come bomb us, so we're gonna make peace. We'll do whatever it takes to get along with you." So I want you to take it from there and go with whatever you want. I'm giving you free reign for next however long you want to talk.
Well, I appreciate that, John. It is a mess that we have in Iran today. You're right. Hundreds of millions of dollars a day is money that I don't think is being spent in the most efficient and effective way. I wish that we had partners in that part of the world who are shouldering some of this burden. And I appreciate that the Israeli government is participating. I think that this is more of an Israeli government problem than an American citizen problem. And for this reason, I wish that more of the burden were on the shoulders of the Israeli government than on ours in relative terms. And I wish that there were others in that region that were participating in a more robust fashion as well. As you know, I have long said that the American government and the Israeli government need to be more at arm's length in terms of the development of foreign policy. And I think that Marco Rubio made a bad mistake the other day when he accidentally said that the reason that we launched the attack when we did was because Israel had already decided to do so. And he really made it seem as though the United States government was the dog being wagged by the Israeli government tail. And that is no way to conduct business. If he didn't misspeak, he certainly spoke when he shouldn't have and disclosed what a lot of us have been worried about for a long time, that our two governments are too intertwined. This is something that President Trump was worried about for a long time with regard to other governments, right? The American foreign policy being too involved with NATO allies and carrying their water when they weren't spending enough to defend themselves, and nations around the world. One might argue that we have similar situations in Asia. And I also think that the American government is spending too much on defense and engaging in too risky behavior on behalf of corporate organizations. This idea that we need to threaten China with going to war over Taiwan is really a shame, because the American government has put us in this position. This isn't something that just fell out of the sky, that was predetermined and preordained by God. This is something that we walked into. We should have been telling businesses that want to manufacture these high-end chips that we need for AI, that we need for weapon systems, that we need for our defense, that we need for the development of our economy. We should have been telling these businesses, if you want to operate in a place where the United States Department of Defense will back you up no matter what, I wouldn't do it in Taiwan. Can I interest you in a place like Milwaukee, right? Or Fayette County,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Places where you can find high-end workers and develop a factory and manufacture chips. And we will stand behind you. We will protect you. But I do not want us in the business of protecting everybody in Taiwan and everybody in the Middle East and everybody in Latin America. We need for these governments to carry their own water, John.
But we just put a video up there that showed military spending, and we spend almost, if you add everybody else up in the whole world, including China, we almost spend as much as a lot of the major countries in the whole world. I mean, we spend,
added up,
I don't know, it looks like about added up, yeah, exactly. If you add all the rest of them up, we spend more on military, and because we're out there trying to defend the world for everybody else, and I get it. We need to have good shepherds to take care of things, but sometimes it'd be nice if, like, the United Kingdom might, like, jump in there and give us a little bit of extra money and do some things and take care. How about sending sending a few more of your troops over there, or the Canadians, or anybody? But I think that would show the world more than just us showing up and taking out.
Well, I agree with you, and we're grateful for everything our partners have done. Thank God they've done what they have, right? But they absolutely could be doing more. I would point to the government of Poland, which has stepped up over the past decade, which is in large part providing the bulwark against the Russian army, because the Russians know that Poland is a large and sophisticated military force, and that's keeping at bay this silly idea that Russia might go into Ukraine and then spread to Poland. That's not happening, and the reason it's not happening is because the Poles have stood up to the task of taking care of business, and we need people in the Middle East to do this as well. And there, John, there are nations in the Middle East that have an interest in making sure that Iran doesn't get carried away. Obviously, Israel is the number one example of that, and Israel is a very wealthy nation with a GDP per capita about 3/4 of that of our own nation. So they are no longer what you would call a developing country. They're a well-developed country. But there are other nations in the region, notably places like Saudi Arabia, right? And the other nations that Iran has been attacking lately, Oman and the United Arab Emirates and Qatar and Kuwait. These are all nations that are going to be dragged into this war. But just think, if they had been spending the money that they should have been, if they had proactively helped intimidate Iran into taking a deal to eliminate the prospect of nuclear weapons, we could have avoided this war. And that's where I wish that we were, instead of fighting a war that's enormously expensive and by the way, could end very badly in the future if things don't go well. I worry about this a lot.
You touched on something there with Poland, and and Romania is right on the other side of but anyways, they're right there in that area. And what I'm trying to say is they've taken in refugees, Romania and Poland, from the Ukraine. And I know for a fact, because I know a minister that's going over there, and they've brought hundreds of children out of the Ukraine, Poland, and they've been receptive. The Poles have been receptive. Yes. So is Romania. And there's other countries over there too, but they've stood their ground against all this. And like you say, now Poland is they need to be commended. I think Slovakia too. I think they're all standing up against all this.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wish that the Baltic nations, Germany, for example, as well, France, I wish that these nations were doing more, and good for them for having pledged to do more in the future. A lot of folks have been frustrated with President Trump's foreign policy in a number of regards, but you got to hand it to the guy. The pressure that he has brought, the pressure that the administration has brought on our NATO allies to spend more, that was an argument worth having. It was an argument long time in coming. We should have had it 40 years ago, to be honest. And this has gone our way. I mean, we'll see, right? Just because they said they would spend the money doesn't mean that they've done it. But at least we're on a better path toward a little bit more fairness in terms of taking care of problems around the world. And I think the next step is in the Middle East. And I got to say, particularly because I know I've been critical of President Trump's foreign policy from time to time, especially this war, but I got to hand it to the guy. He is the one that has opened some doors to developing stronger relationships, not only between Washington and the other Arabic capitals in that area, but between Israel and the other Arabic nations in that region. And that's all to the good and portends for a much safer Middle East in the future.
I believe that the whole I don't want to say it. All the oil producers over there are gonna do their best to stay on our side. Now you're gonna have somebody that's gonna go rogue. We all know that. We all know that. But the Russians and the Chinese right now, they're studying this pretty hard because the Russians want to sell petrol, they want to sell natural gas, but so I guess they're going to have to start exporting it to China is what they're going to have to do. They have to sell to the Chinese because we're slowly cutting their showcase down where they can sell it. I mean,
well, that's exactly
maybe
right.
that's
the Russians will benefit from the higher price on oil, but at the same time, they have had a very important military relationship with Iran, and that's obviously going away. Not only is Iran going to be a lot less influential in the area, I would argue that they're going to go from one of the most influential, albeit in a horrific and terroristic fashion, they're going to go from being one of the most influential players in the Middle East to being one of the least consequential players in the Middle East. And that means diminishing Russia's influence. It also means that the Iranians won't be able to sell drones to Russia anymore. They're virtually out of a capacity to even manufacture them at this point because of the bombing over the past 9 days, which is set to continue. And that will diminish Iran's ability to manufacture weapons, much less sell them to Russia. So Russia's in a bad way, which breaks my heart not. And the Chinese are in a bad way because they had been buying oil from Iran. This is oil that's not going to make it through the Strait of Hormuz. And we all hope that the Strait of Hormuz becomes safer for oil in general, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen in the next couple of days. I'm hoping that we can put enough pressure on the not the new regime, but the continuing regime in Tehran in order to cut a deal, open the strait. I think that if the White House is playing their cards right, they will be able to cut a deal that says we'll allow you idiots to stay in power, but we need weapons inspections. We need to make sure that you're not developing a nuclear weapon. We need the Strait of Hormuz open. And now that you've seen what happens when you don't behave, maybe now we have some more leverage to make sure that you live up to the agreement.
It's sure better than sending them pilots of money. And
it is better than sending them piles of money. I do wish that we had been negotiating for the past several weeks, but now, at the very least, the administration's in a much stronger position to engage that negotiation.
So, do you feel like that? And of course, the hillbilly I am. Well, once you take over someplace, I believe that you're entitled to some spoils of war. So let's. I think we ought to at least settle the account up for the trillions of dollars that Barack Obama sent over there. Let's get that and maybe pay for the $1 billion a day that we're spending to make peace over there. And I think they'll still have a lot of money left over. I guess maybe that's maybe that's
well, it is a bargaining
way I look
chip.
at
There's no question about it. The Iranians have got to realize that they're in an extremely weak position, that we're in control at this point of not only their sky, but their water, their naval operations, and by extension, their ability to export oil. We're therefore in charge of their economy by virtue of being able to drop bombs wherever we want them. And with precision, we're in charge of whoever is running the regime. I think that replacing the entirety of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps is not going to happen. It's too big. It's too complex. It would be far too expensive to replace them. So they will be able to replace the heads of state as quickly as we kill them. But we should at least be able to intimidate them into cutting a favorable deal for us. I don't have a problem with the Iranians keeping their money as long as they spend it on taking care of business instead of developing nuclear weapons.
Well, one of the things I was going to ask you that I had in the back of my mind, what do you think the new government over there looks like? Do you think it'll be like a monarchy with maybe like with the people, like maybe sort of like a parliament?
No,
that,
I think it's going to look exactly
maybe
the way it has looked for the past 47 years. I think absolutely nothing has changed, and I think absolutely nothing is going to change. The only thing that's going to change is the name of the guy at the head. As long as the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps is calling the shots, you can kill one guy after another. One Khamenei after another. You can replace them with someone from a different family. I just don't think it matters. The IRGC is going to install some cleric figurehead, one after another. They'll replace them as quickly as we kill them. As long as the IRGC is in power, you're going to have what is ostensibly a theocracy, but the truth is that the military is calling the shots.
So in order to straighten the things out for the people of Iran, we're actually going to have to probably take the military powers out the B in order to make that work.
I would think so, and I think that that's virtually impossible. I think the best you can hope for is to cut a deal that stops them from developing a nuclear warhead, that gives us the right to inspect, that keeps them maybe from developing too many missiles or something like that, so that they don't think that they can withstand another war in the future. But I don't think we're going to be able to negotiate our way into them having a democracy. I don't think we're going to be able to war our way into them having a democracy either. Their total military has approached in recent years nearly 1 million personnel. This is not a small army. Obviously they're not as well equipped. They don't have the technology. They don't have the air cover. They don't have the naval capabilities that we do. This is not a fair fight. I don't mean it like that. But would it be bloody? Absolutely. Would there be huge casualties on both sides? Absolutely. So I'm still hoping that we don't put troops on the ground there, because it would be an absolute mess. Ultimately, for us to dominate Tehran physically and put troops in the city in a way that would allow us to be calling the shots at a detail level and try to transition to some democratic institutions, you're talking about possibly hundreds of thousands of Iranian deaths and thousands of American deaths. I just don't see it happening.
Well, and let's hope we learn some lessons from Afghanistan, and hopefully that'll help us. Hopefully we go at this a whole different way, and
from your lips to God's ears.
Yeah. And the other thing I often think about is MacArthur. He tried to explain to the powers that be in 1952 that you can't fight a limited war. There's no such thing as a limited war. How about that?
That's right. You got to fight.
And I mean, yeah, and it seems like from it seems like it's all about the industrial war complex instead of about taking care of the United States of America. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get on that subject another day.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, John. It certainly does seem as though we're far too comfortable as a nation funneling gobs of money into the industrial base that is not typically well spent. Remember that, you mentioned Afghanistan, and Iraq goes in that same category. We lost not billions, but trillions of dollars, and lost not hundreds of personnel, but thousands. I think that we sometimes underappreciate just how costly these wars were. And I do fear that we underappreciate the risk of getting into another similar conflict if we don't negotiate our way out of this pretty quick. Things have gone so well the past 9 days. I think that this is our high water mark in terms of our leverage. And I think that we should start negotiating now.
I think that we're in a plane that we can negotiate, just like you said. It's time that we do that. I will tell you that I really believe that we don't need to go there. They need to come to us, and then we have the higher ground when it comes to negotiating. If I'm going to negotiate with you, I want to have the sun at my back. I want to be standing on top of the hill. So that's where we're at right now. So it's time. They come here, and we'll negotiate with them. And if they don't, and we have to stand firm in this. I do believe we really do, because we can't afford to lose no more. We've lost 6, I believe it is, so far, and we cannot lose not another soldier for this. And them's lives that can't never come back and never will be replaced.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and now I understand that we've lost a 7. It's really heartbreaking and a disappointment. Let's hope that that's where it stays and the casualty count doesn't go any higher. By the way, the Israelis have lost over 100 people. The Iranians have lost over 1,700 people, and there have been a handful of deaths around the Middle East in the Omar, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia attacks. There have been several more lives lost. All of these are lamentable, and I hope that there aren't any more of them. I agree with you. We're in a very strong negotiating position, and we should get to it straight away.
Okay, Mike, I really appreciate you. I really do. I know I'll be talking to you soon. We've got a lot of things coming up that we got to get together about, especially here in Pennsylvania. We got to try to get this We the People's movement bigger, greater, and as much as we can. And I believe that's what the Liberty Caucus is all about, the Republican Liberty Caucus. We have to really promote this, and we have to get people understanding that just because you're a Republican, or you don't have to side with the powers that be. We need to take over and change things.
Well said, John. The Republican Liberty Caucus is a very pro-constitution.
We're having a little bit of difficulty. Okay. Hey, I thank you so much. If anybody wants to get in contact with you, I'm sure that they can find your email at. You want to go ahead and put
Absolutely.
it out there?
People should reach out to me directly at mike@miketermott.com and start a conversation. We got a lot going on. We got a book coming out in a couple of months about a lot of the things that you and I just talked about. We have the Republican Liberty Caucus to talk about, and big news coming later on this year. So it's a very exciting 2026.
Yes. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you're busy all the time, and coming on the podcast with me, and we'll make sure everybody gets to see your well-groomed face and hair, and the nice suit you have on and tie. So, hey, you take care. Thanks a bunch for being with me, and God bless you.
It's my great joy. Thanks, John. You take care.
And I always close my show with this. On this road called life, you have to take the good with the bad, smile with the sad, love what you got, and remember what you had. Always forgive, but never forget. People change. Things go wrong. Just remember the ride goes on. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. I am John Marietta, and I am the Hillbilly.